Okay, hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Thank you guys for liking, thank you guys for subscribing, clicking the notification bell. Thank you guys for supporting me once again. Today I'm gonna be doing oh, by the way, I'm sorry if my hair looks kind of crazy. I was playing around with this old crochet wig I found and I just couldn't be bothered to take it off. And I hope my glasses are not reflecting too much of the light from outside, so I hope you guys can still see my face. Yeah, today's video is gonna be a story time. I know you guys really love these. It's gonna be a story time on my birth story. Right, so where do we begin? The day was, I don't remember the exact date, but I know it was the last Thursday of March. I was at home. At the time I was living in Metsi. My mom had been at work the whole day, and then she came home in the evening. My mom is self-employed. She came home that evening like around 4ish, and that day since like 2 p.m. I'd been having Braxton Hicks. If you guys don't know what Braxton Hicks are, they're like these fake but seemingly real contractions. So I'd been having Braxton Hicks. I knew that my due date was close. In fact, I had already passed my due date by a week. Yeah, I had already passed my due date by a week, like the proper due date. You know that when you're pregnant, they give you a 2 weeks pre the proper due date, and then they give you like a 2 weeks pre the proper due date, then they give you your due date, like the proper due date, and then they give you a 2 weeks post due date. That's like for not premature, but like what are they called, late, when you give birth late, you get what I mean. So I think that's like at 42 weeks, either 40 weeks or 42 weeks, but I think it was 42 because I've been pregnant for a long time. Yeah, so I was a week post my due date, and I was like, okay, I think the baby is actually like coming now. So I tell my mom, and she's like, are you sure that those are contractions? Why don't we just wait? And then after I'm like, yeah, no, I'm really feeling like really crampy, and they keep coming and then going and coming and going. And then she's like, okay, let's go to bed, or let's chill for a bit, and if the contractions don't go away, we'll take you to the hospital. Cool. The hospital, which by the way was in Molopolole, because that's where we agreed I was going to give birth. Initially, I'd wanted to give birth in Ramotwa, but it wouldn't make sense to drive all the way to Ramotwa from Metsi, given the fact that the Molopole hospital was that way. I did not want to give birth to Marina because we all know how Marina Hospital is in terms of like the labor and maternity ward. So we agreed, okay, we were chilling, we go to bed. My cousin comes by, she's like, oh, I hear that you might be, going into labor today. I'm like, yeah, I keep having these really weird contractions. I don't know how to feel about them. They're not like evenly spaced, but they're pretty strong. She comes, she leaves. That evening I'm like, mom, I'm scared that I'm gonna be like in heavy labor, and then we'll be trying to drive to the hospital, then I give birth in the car. Then she's like, okay, take a shower, grab your bags, let's go. I take a shower. No, I'd already taken a shower, but yeah, I got dressed, then grabbed my bags, and we went. When we get to the hospital, this was at night, right? We get to the hospital, then we go into the labor ward, which was one of the most traumatizing things, because instead of we didn't know that we're supposed to go to the maternity ward. We were just looking for a place where women give birth, or there's women who have given birth. We just didn't know that there was like two different things, like a labor and a maternity, So we go into the labor ward mistakenly, and the first thing I hear is women screaming, like, oh my god. And this one woman is with her husband. She's with her husband. The husband's helping her out. Okay, that's But she's screaming, and the husband is holding her hand. Okay. Then the other woman is alone, and the nurse is yelling at her. I'm gonna impersonate her in Setswana because it's the only way, because that's what was happening. Hey, Lamayan. What did she say? O tsaela gore gateng o no ira ngwana o tsaela gore gateng ngwana o ka tswa mo phatlheng e kana go sa kgaoge. Hey, I was like, I was shaking. And this is me. I know it's gonna be me soon. I'm shaking, I'm sweating, I'm scared. My mom was also looking at the nurses like, why would you? So then we speak to one of the nurses, or my mom does, and then the nurse is like, okay, Emang ha, so we can go to the maternity ward so that we can look for, like, we can book you into a bed. So just wait here. Then they leave us in the labor ward, and this woman is screaming, screaming, screaming. Then she gives birth, they take the child away. Meanwhile, we're sitting like in the labor ward, there's not really a reception because it's not a place where people go unattended like we did. Like, it's not a place where people walk into and are received. It's more of a place where you're taken from the maternity ward and brought to the labor ward. So the reception area was more of a nurse's lounge slash office vibe. So we are waiting near that place. They didn't offer us a seat. We were standing the whole time. Then the lady leaves. She's gone for a good 10 minutes, but that 10 minutes was like the longest 10 minutes of my life. Yeah, then the nurse had started like stitching the woman's JJ. And the lady was screaming again. And she's like, yeah, how can you think that a baby whose head is this big is going to come out of a hole this big and you're not going to tear? You're going to tear. So open your legs, put one leg that side, put one leg this side. And the nurse was like, oh back. I can't really jump on that. These are the consequences. I'm like, I hope that's not my nurse. When it's my time to give birth, I really hope that's not my nurse. And then she got stitches, and the lady was just screaming, Gutla, you know that Setswana scream that you, and you can hear the, and her voice, yo. I shouldn't be laughing because I have friends who want to be mothers like so bad, and I'm like, we must just take you to a labor ward once. You'll never want to go back there. It's like being in a psych ward, except these women are all sane, so you know that their pain is justified and validated. Like, but yeah, kunzima, in the labor ward. It's terrible. Anyway, so the lady is like, okay, we prepared a bed for you, so come this way. Then they make us walk through the labor ward, not around, because I guess it was short. It is shorter actually, because I've been in the hospital. We walk through the labor ward. Then we get to the maternity ward. They make me sign in. First, they make us sit in the waiting room. That's at the beginning of the maternity ward, where the guests or the families of the people admitted come and see them. And then they check me in. And then the lady's like, okay, let's just see. Are you still having contractions? I'm like, yeah, but they're kind of dying down now, which was quite annoying because we drove all the way from Mizimothabe to Morapole only for my contractions to like not be as painful. Or maybe it was because of the shock of being in the labor ward. Anyway, so once we're there, then my mom is like, does she really need to sign in now since, she says they're kind of dying down now? Then the lady's like, since she's 1 week post her due date, yes, we are admitting her and she's gonna stay here. My goodness, my bubble. Anyway, so I'm like, really? Am I gonna have to stay? Mom was like, yeah, I'm gonna have to stay here. That means we'll bring you more clothes tomorrow. Okay. They sign me in, they give me my bed. I'm there, I'm quiet. I feel like I'm the youngest. Actually, when we walked into the labor ward, we were waiting for the nurses to see us, like, to ask me how I'm feeling and stuff. There was this one little Khoisan. I don't know. But there was this one little Khoisan girl. She's tiny. She's like almost. I'm pretty tall, so this is her. Like by my elbows. She's tiny, she's skinny, but her stomach is like, she's in labor. And when you're in labor, they leave you in the maternity ward until you're fully dilated. So she was walking around crying. Yo, oh my God. I'm like, this looks hectic. Like, this is something that I'm gonna have to go through. Ish. Anyways, so then they give us the thing. I get admitted. They show me my bed. I was in a shared ward with like maybe around 8 other women. Yeah, so there was like 4 beds this way. No, 10. 5 beds on the one end of the room and 5 beds on the other end of the room. Okay, cool. spend the night. I tell my friends, yeah, I'm here, I'm at the hospital, I've been admitted. Hopefully the baby will come soon. It's kind of scary. I'm telling them my stories, they're freaking out. At that time, my friends were writing that, well, we're preparing to write that Form 5 exams. So they would be online for like a little bit. I couldn't be up all night talking to them because they had to go to school. And I was just there in the labor ward getting ready to give birth to my child. Anyway, so I'm there. Most of the ladies in the ward are older than me. Some have had more than one child. You know, things are going well. There was a lady next to me. Like, my bed was the second one from the entrance, right? So the lady in the bed, the first bed next to me, she was pregnant, but she always looked like she was crying, and I'm like, what's going on? Then I think after like 2 days of me being there, I was told this particular lady kept crying every day because she had actually lost her child. So they had to induce her and she had to give birth to her baby, which is a story something that's happened to one of my friends, which is very, very sad. But they had to induce her. She had to give birth to the baby, and it was very painful for me to watch because I'm like, imagine I give birth and my child is not alive. How would I feel after all of that pain and all the trauma you go through just being in that ward, watching women going to give birth, they're crying, next minute they come back, they have stitches. Some women are like, can't walk. Some women who, if you have a C-section, I think you stay in bed for like 3 or 4 days without being able to move or get up. The nurses have to change you and stuff like that. So, this woman really broke my heart. And like, I think on the 3rd day she gave birth to her baby. They came, they did the birth certificate, did the death certificate, and then her family took her away. That was very painful to watch, like extremely painful to watch. So yeah, guys, childbirth is not a joke. Anyway, so back to my experience. Day 1, the next morning, my parents bring me another blanket because it was kind of warm in the ward. By the way, my mom was working, like she had a few I don't know if they're 10, but she had like a few deadlines to meet. So she was working like a lot. So I spent most of my days alone. I think my mom came to see me at the hospital maybe a total of 4 times of the week that I was there. So she didn't come see me every day. And because I was far away, it wasn't a situation where my friends could get on a combi and come to the hospital and see me. So it was just my mom, her friend, my brother would come to see me, and my grandma. So only 4 people. The next day I told them, okay, the water's a bit cold, so please bring me a blanket. They brought me a blanket. They brought me a few snacks, like, and a few breakfast things, like for me to eat in case I don't want to eat the hospital food, because the hospital food some days was okay, some days was like no. Yeah, so they brought me that. The hospital was surprisingly clean. The only problem that I had was that there was no water, but they kept it quite hygienic in most bathrooms. So yeah, I was quite grateful to give birth at be at such a clean hospital. It was clean, the staff was okay. They weren't like the friendliest, they were the meanies, but most of the staff was cool. The ladies in the ward were amazing. Like, anyway, so first day they bring those things, then around 11 a.m. No, actually every day at 7 a.m. Not even 11, what am I saying? I'm not a morning person, so I remember this very well. Every day at 7 a.m. a doctor would come and they would check you. So the first day, and when I mean check you, I mean check you. Like, put on gloves. Him and his team, he had like 2 people. I think one was an intern, one was a nurse. And he had 2 people following him, taking notes. I think it's a teaching hospital. And he would put on gloves and make you open your legs. And when you're pregnant, you realize that your body is not your own body. Your body is everybody's body, and you have to be comfortable with having your legs wide open, people seeing parts of you that you would not under any normal circumstance show other people. So yeah, the doctor would come, put on gloves, then take 2 or 3 fingers and swipe inside to check what's going on. Are you dilated? How's it going? They'd listen to the baby's heartbeat, make sure the vitals are fine, like feel around your belly and stuff, and then they'd leave, like checking every patient every morning. Cool. The first morning, The doctor comes. I'm like, oh, what's going on? I asked one of like my neighbors. They're like, hey, Kana, I forgot to tell you, Gore, every morning there's a doctor that comes. This particular time it was an Indian doctor. Yeah, so he was checking. He's very short, small fingers, everything. Then they were like, but there's this other doctor. He's Ghanaian. That guy is huge. Like 2 of his fingers are like 4 of my fingers. That's and the others were like, hey, it's not a joke. When that man puts his fingers inside you, you're like, oh my god, like. And I was freaking out, like, I hope this doctor doesn't come. Day 1, I'm there. Day 2, day 3, the woman next to me gives birth. A few people in my ward give birth. Every time you give birth, you're moved from the pregnant women's ward to the. Actually, no, you still sleep. No, actually, yeah, no. You're moved from the pregnant women's ward to the ward where women have their babies, which is still in the maternity ward. Anyway, so I'm there. Day 4, a week goes by. Then on Wednesday, I remember the Ghanaian doctor then walks in. So I'm like, oh my god, this Ghanaian doctor down at the big fingers is here. The guy is huge. He is dark. He is, when I say huge, I mean huge, like, like he's stocky. Like, not just tall, he's stocky. He has big hands, like big fingers, big. And I'm like, oh my god, today's my day. I'm not ready. Oh my god, he's going to tear my vagina open before I even give birth. Oh god, what's supposed to happen? Then he goes around, does his rounds. Then he gets to my bed and he's like, oh, your due date is tomorrow. I'm like, yeah. He's like, okay, I'm not gonna do a swipe. Let's just check the baby's vitals. He listened for the heartbeat, check if everything's well, if the baby's moving and if the baby's turned. And then he's like, so tomorrow morning you're gonna get induced. Cool. This is me now praying a Thanksgiving prayer. Oh my god, thank you that he didn't have to put his fingers in me. Imagine, like, the one thing I was dreading is the one thing that didn't happen to me. He leaves, the next day comes, the doctors wake me up at like 7 in the morning when people are doing their rounds. Then they give me, I don't know if it's a cursed pill. No, it's a solution. They take it with a syringe and they give it to me in the cup. Here's the cup, drink. It should take you about 2 of these to get your labor started. Okay, I drink the first one. Nothing happens. After 4 hours, they give me another one. Nothing happens. At this point, they should have waited, but they didn't. Around in the afternoon, they gave me another one. Nothing happened. And then in the evening, around 6, they gave me half the dose. Then the contractions started coming. I felt hot. I felt cold. I was walking up and down. I didn't know what to do. I was in so much pain. Like, like, I don't know how to explain the pain. It's like something's hitting. It's like the pain is like something is hitting like your back by the end of your tailbone. You know that pain, that back pain you get when you have period pains? But like 10 times worse. And it's like there's like a jerking force, like forcing your baby down, like, Correct. When people are like, push. It's not just you pushing, it's your body kind of forcing you to push. No, okay, I'm going to give you a TMI example. It's like when you really need to take a dump and the poop is like low-key coming out by itself and you have to hold it in, but like there's that force that's like but yeah, there's that force that's like pushing the poop out, so you have to like rush to the toilet then poop. Yeah. So that's what it feels like, but painful. It feels like period pains times 1,000. Your whole abdomen is jerking itself and forcing this child down. Like, you really want to push, but then you're told not to push. So my contractions got really bad because I think they overdosed on the thing. Like, 2 of them were supposed to do, but they actually ended up giving me like 3.5 cups. And then I think one of the nurses felt sorry for me. So the only thing that they could do to take away the pain without giving me like an epidural, which I don't think is something that they offer at government hospitals, was for them to give me a sedative. So they injected me once with this sedative. Imagine, I'm given 3.5 cups of something that's supposed to induce my labor. Then they give me a sedative, and then after a while they give me another one. That's how bad my contractions were. The fact that they had to give me a sedative. So I'd be walking around, and actually before they gave me the sedative, my mom came to see me at the hospital. She came with her friend. Then the friend was like, don't worry, it'll be okay. And I remember screaming, what do you mean? Don't worry. I'm not gonna be okay. You don't know how it feels. The guy was a man. You're never gonna give birth. You don't know how it feels. Don't tell me that it's gonna be okay. I'm like, when the contraction subsides and now the shame kicks in because I'm like, yo, that's how bad contractions are. If you have never shouted at your grandmother before when she comes to see you, especially like a Kalanga grandmother or a grandmother from Seroy, the ones where you like when you're calling them babits plural. Like it's not meke bom, it's not nkuku ke bom kuku. Even if you're talking about one person, those kind of grandmothers, if you've never shouted at them or your grandfather in your life, you'll find yourself shouting at them because of labor pains. Labor pains are not a joke. Anyway, fast forward, they gave me the sedative. Then later on they give me another one. This is around 8 p.m. So I'd be walking around screaming, the baby wants to come out. The nurse had checked how far along I was in terms of dilation. I was like at 3 centimeters for I don't know how long. Like she'd keep checking 3 centimeters, 2 centimeters, 3 centimeters, 4 centimeters. I'm like, no, check again. You have to check again. Like right now, check. She'd be like, yeah, no, just go back and don't push because I can push about Father Lord Jesus. At some point, I'm like, maybe I should just push and end this because what can I do? What can be done? Anyway, so how contractions work for those of you who don't know, they start off not as strong and the intervals are long. So you'll have a contraction now, like a mild one, and then you'll go for a few minutes, maybe 15 minutes, 20 minutes, no contraction, then it comes back. Then with time, they keep getting stronger and the time frame keeps getting shorter. So at this point, I was having more and more contractions, but every time, because they gave me the sedative, every time the contraction would subside, I'd have to be near my bed. Like I stopped walking up and down because every time the contraction would subside, I'd have to be near my bed because I was about to pass out. Because why? They gave me a sedative. Imagine how dangerous that could have been if I was walking in the passage and then the contraction was like, okay, you can rest now. And then the sedative was like, psych. Then I blacked out and fell on my baby or something. Anyway, so yeah, I'd stay near the bed because I knew that immediately the contraction ends, I have to be near my bed because I'm probably gonna start feeling woozy and want to sleep until the next contraction starts. Then I have to get up. Yeah, that happened until the lady was like, come, let me check you. And then she checked me, and then around, people who don't know, then around 11 or so at night, by the way. This is on the 2nd of April. Around 11 at night, Wednesday the 2nd of April, 11 o'clock-ish. Then the nurse is like, I think you're ready. Take your bags, let's go. Don't leave anything in the room. So this is me now. I have to start packing up all my stuff. I have contractions. Every time my contractions stop, I want to pass out. I pack up all my things, and then... Actually, no, I didn't pack up everything. I just packed the baby bag because I couldn't handle packing everything. But like I put my things together in the little compartment side table thing that they gave me. Put my things together nicely so nobody takes anything. Well, not that they were going to take anything, but I left my things properly there. And then I took my baby bag and I left. Got to the maternity room and the lady was like, Apol. The room is cold, by the way. I'm freezing too because I have to, like, my body is going through so much, so I'm freezing. And then at the same time, I keep passing out. By the time I got to the labor ward, like I had no energy in me whatsoever to push. Anyway, the lady is like, Apol, take off my dress. She's like, get on the bed. I get on the bed and then I'm there like literally butt naked. No blanket to cover, nothing, like butt naked. And then she's like, don't push. You haven't fully dilated yet. We just brought you here because you're close. Okay. In terms of dilation, there's like 1, 2, 3, 4 until you get to 10. So imagine all those hours you're fighting to get to 10. I'm alone. There's no mom. My mom was working that night and I think she had like something important, really important to do that next morning or something. But my mom is not there. Nobody's there really. It was just me. I gave birth alone. I was alone when I gave birth. Then the lady's like, you're not there yet, so don't push. That time the contractions, I'm laying down now, like I'm reclined on the bed. So my body is preparing, like, and hush, my legs were open. I was moaning and screaming and crying. It wasn't that annoying, but I just couldn't help it. You know, like when the contraction comes, you're kind of forced to go, like. Can't believe I made such a noise. But you're kind of forced to make like a really weird moany sound. So I kept doing that because it was the only thing that could calm me down. Like just breathing out like wasn't helping me. I had to make the sound in order for me to feel better. After all, the lady was like, okay, you're ready now. Start pushing. Every time you feel a contraction, push. Then she leaves me. Like she closes the curtain and she walks away. I'm like, so I start pushing that, you know, yeah, pushing. Then the lady sees her, okay, these pushes, nothing's happening because you have no energy. And she's like, oh, I can see, Kana, you're given a sedative here, it's written on your card and they administered it twice. So you probably don't have any energy. Let me give you an IV, like drip. And then they attached it to put in a catheter, attached it. Yeah, she was like, keep trying to push, your strength will increase with time. Like, okay. Then I'm there, pushing. I don't think I pushed for that long because the lady was like, oh, the baby's already, like when she came back, she was like, oh, ngonekyo, areko. Like it was crowning, his head was not fully out. And she's like, okay, push again. Push, then push again, and then the body came out. Then she kind of wiggled him out like the rest of him. And then I don't remember anything much because after the contraction stopped, I heard him cry. He had like the softest cry. And then they didn't give him to me immediately. They kind of took him away from me to go clean him up and weigh him and remove the fluids from his mouth and whatnot. So they took him away and I'm like, in my head, the only thing I was thinking is, oh my god, they're gonna come back with the wrong baby. How am I gonna know that it's my baby? Babies are so wrinkly, and how am I gonna know that it's mine because I haven't even looked at it? Oh my god, I'm so sleepy. Oh my god, I'm about to pass out. And then I think the lady was removing the afterbirth. She made me push one more time, I think. And then she like pulled the afterbirth out. And that time I was just really woozy and sleepy, like when it was happening. So I don't remember much of what was happening. The room was kind of spinning. I was getting anxiety because they had taken my son away to go clean him up. And he had been gone for like maybe a good 10 minutes, but it felt like he was gone for like 30, I swear. After that, then the lady was like, oh yeah, then they cleaned me up like the blood and what. Then they put in a new sheet and then open my thighs again. And then she's like, I'm gonna stitch you up. Please don't cry. That time in my head, I'm thinking, wow, pain is going to be upon me because now the birth is done. So that pain, which was greater than the pain of being sewed up, is over, which means I might feel this, like really feel it. And she's like, I'm gonna stitch you up. Please cooperate with me. Don't close your legs while I'm stitching you up. And then she's like, you know how they speak to you and so on. I'm like, okay. I open my legs. She starts stitching. Honestly, I didn't feel much because my sedative was not like, I don't know if it was for like, it was not anesthesia. It was not an anesthetic, that sedative that they gave me. It was just like a sedative to make somebody drowsy. You get what I mean? So that between the things I don't feel pain, or I don't know, maybe they expected me to take a nap while I had contractions. I don't know what the game plan was, but because I was so drowsy and because I still had adrenaline in my body and I was having late reactions to everything because when I was on the drip, but I still had the sedative in me, and you know, so the lady was stitching me up and all I genuinely felt was I felt like a little bit, but it was not as painful. And I was like, wow, I thought I'd be screaming and crying like that other lady, but I guess not. Yeah, and then they gave me my baby to see. I gave birth around 5 past midnight. 5 past 10 past midnight. Don't really remember because I was really drowsy. After like an hour, no, around about 3 a.m. actually. Around 3 a.m. they take me. The lady's like, okay, wake up, put on a gown and your maternity pad and whatnot. Let's go. Then they hand me my baby. I'm holding my baby. My son is still in the hospital, swab rag cloth, whatever they put around the baby, and then my bag, my maternity bag, and then they put me in a wheelchair and they wheel me to the maternity ward. They get me a room and they're like, okay, this is your room. This time it was like a private room, but not really. It was just me and one other lady. We had our own bathroom. And then she's like, okay, sleep here. That time I think I was really cold. Like I had blankets, but I was cold and I was so worried about my baby. And I'm like, where's my baby supposed to sleep? She's like, next to you. That was a single bed, by the way. Okay, I'm scared. I have to sleep next to my baby. She's like, clean him off and put some clothes on him. But I was afraid to do it. I remember. I think I did it around 6 or 7 a.m. So when we got to the room, what I did was I swabbed him. I swabbed his face a little bit, just a little bit. And I covered him in more blankets and put a small little. Oh, they had already put a small little hospital diaper on. And then I covered us both in the blanket. Then we slept. Then I think I woke up around 7. No, half 6. My grandmother had come to see, and I had so much energy, like so much energy. I was bouncing around the hospital like nothing happened, like I didn't just give birth. Went to see my grandmother. She's like, oh, I brought you some stuff. I told her, oh, I gave birth, the baby's here already, so prayed for me. She was so proud of me. Actually, when I went to see my grandmother, what happened was I stood up with my baby because I'm like, I'm supposed to take my baby everywhere I go. And when I was walking in the hall, the nurse was like, oh, I'm like, what do you mean? I'm going to see my grandmother with my baby. Isn't she supposed to come see the baby? She's like, I'm like, I'm supposed to leave my baby on the bed just like that? She's like, yeah, go put the baby back. So I put the baby back. I'm paranoid. I see my grandmother for about 10 minutes. She prays for me. Then she tells me, okay, I'll see you when they release you from the hospital. Cool. My grandmother leaves. I go back to the room. My son is still sleeping. I can breathe again. I go pack up my things from the other ward that I was from, take them to my room. And then around 8 or 9, I was told, oh, Tlamelo, come here. Okay, I go. What is your child's name? Fill out this form. That was the birth certificate. I fill it out, the form for the birth certificate. Fill it out. My name, details, my son's name, and then came the part where I had to decide whether I'm putting Liam's father on the birth certificate or not. Yeah, so I decided not to put him on it. I don't know why. Or I think it's because he had already spoken about it and he said he doesn't want a kid. And just all those things he was saying are playing back in my head. And I'm like, maybe something in me was like, don't put him on the birth certificate. So I didn't. Not that I was denying that he's my son's child. They were like, I don't want to have. I'm like, then the one lady was like, Mokwale, how about Muisa Kote? Muisa Yang? And then the other one was like, Motasa Batlek Mana Hawe, who to Kausa Mokwalo, Roscan now, Kopa in Husiam, Tlogel Hela Honawata Mokwala Komuraho. Then I'm like, okay, let me just not write his name. I'll write my name. Also, because I was a teen parent, I think some of the nurses advised me that way because they expected my parents to kind of adopt my son, and the process would be much easier if his name was not on the birth certificate, especially because he absconded from his parenting duties. Although that's not what happened. My parents have not adopted my son. He's still my son legally. I am his sole parent and guardian, and only parent and guardian on the birth certificate. So yeah, after filling that out, they were like, okay, we're discharging you, so call whoever's coming to pick you up. Cool. Call my mom. Hi mom, they're discharging me, so please come pick me up. My mom gets there around midday. Then I pack up my things, and then I signed the discharge papers, and so does she, because I was a minor back then, so she had to sign the papers on my behalf because she signed them when I was being checked into the hospital. She signs the discharge papers. I take the child to her, and there's a picture of her holding her grandson for the first time. I'll insert it somewhere here. Take the child to her, and she's holding the child. Then she started crying. That was the most precious moment. She started crying. Then I bring the car seat. Oh, she had brought her car seat. Then she put put a blanket in, put the baby in the car seat, and then I grabbed the rest of my stuff and we went to the car. Then that was that. Drove to pick my grandmother up. My grandmother lives in Mulla. We got there, my grandmother was singing, dancing, and she's like, yo, let me gather my things. She had already packed up. Let me gather my things. She takes her things, she gets in the car, we leave. My grandmother was like singing the whole way. We get home. The room had already been prepared for me like weeks before, but I guess they cleaned it as soon as they found out that I'd given birth, because Gonarana thing was quite dusty. He get home, then I was tired at that point, and then laid my son in the bed. This was after I had changed my son at the I forgot to narrate that story. Laid my son in the bed. Then I got into bed and then I slept. Then my mom was like, but then again, you know, when you're used to sleeping alone, then you have a baby, the possibility of you and then killing your babies. Yeah, but I think I'm quite paranoid. Like when I feel something in my spirit, I don't fully sleep. Also, once you become a mom, this thing of you sleeping it ends. Like you can't go into deep sleep until your child is at a reasonable age, and even then you just don't really sleep like before. So yeah, we sleep, then I wake up around 4 p.m. and I tried to go to the kitchen. My grandmother was like, hey, where are you going? I'm like, to the kitchen. But that walk to the kitchen, I felt like I'd been beaten by like a mob. Like I felt like mob justice was done on me, because every single part of my body was painful. And it's not like gym pains, like after you've done like a very hectic workout and you can't sit on the toilet seat. No. That one was like, it felt like my muscles were ripped apart and then somebody just pushed them together and was like, yeah, here you have your body back. It really felt like I was bruised like everywhere. This was nothing compared to the gym pains that I felt, and I've been like a gym freak before, so I know what gym pains feel like. I don't even know how to describe it. Anyway, that's how my birth story went, from what happened before, how I got to the hospital, and etc. I hope you guys enjoyed the story, and I hope you guys will stay tuned for more story times from me. Please like, comment, subscribe. Please interact with me, ask any questions. I'll definitely do a Q&A on whatever you guys want to know. I'm down to answer it. Please let me know any video suggestions that you'd like for me to create for you guys. God willing, see you guys in the next video. Peace.